I think college basketball is great, and I think college basketball is like it's an industry. It's not just a sport, and it's like anything human. There are things that happen great, and there are things that happen medium, and there are things that happen bad. Last week was bad. It doesn't mean all of college basketball is bad. It also doesn't mean that that's necessarily the tip of some iceberg. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think the iceberg is really good. I do think that college basketball, the landscape of basketball for a player from middle school, high school, college, pros, keeps changing. That the landscape for the player keeps changing. We in college have not changed as much as the landscape has changed. The landscape before we get them has changed dramatically. And certainly the NBA in that has changed dramatically with money, one and done, and whatever. We are not equipped right now to handle that. We don't have a good model. It doesn't mean we don't have a model that fits what's happening in basketball. So college basketball is going to have problems. And, before these kids ever come to us, we are not the only ones recruiting these youngsters. Talent is being recruited all the time in every shape and form. It's singing and dancing and studies and sport and whatever. And so, when we recruit, especially in the last 4 to 5 years, the grassroots culture of basketball before we get them has changed dramatically. And not necessarily all bad. I think that they're better organized. Kids get more, they get more opportunities and whatever. But then we put them, it's a little bit more business. It used to be high school, maybe a little AAU, no business. We get them, and then business. Now it's business for, people are trying to recruit them. They should. If you had a son that was really good, but do you? It's really a daughter? Sorry. No, I mean, that's great, but not in this context. But if somebody said, your kid is really good, I'm gonna outfit his high school team in whatever, Adidas, Nike, Under Armour, would you accept? And would it be legal? Yes, 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 yes. I'm going to be on an AAU team. I'm going to send you shoes. I'm going to sponsor that. Is it illegal? No. Would you accept it? Yes, yes, yes. If they said, I'm going to take you and 14 other kids and your families to Italy to play, would you accept? Yes. Illegal? No. And so we can keep adding things here. Nothing is illegal. A couple of those things that happened last week are not what we want. But the other stuff, I think that's good. I think that's good for kids and families. Are you kidding me? I think that's great. Now, what do we do when we get them into us? It's a change. And when there's that change, then there can be problems, misinterpretations of what is good, what is right, what is legal, what can I expect, because you form habits here that are not illegal. Most of these things are not. The stuff last week, people, that's not a good thing. But most of the stuff is good. And, people say, I've read so much, and a lot of it is really, most of it is really interesting. Nobody has the solution. But a bunch of people have the ideas. And so how do we figure that all out? How do we figure it all out? And who figures it out? To me, that's the biggest question. There is no who. There's no who. There is a group called the Who, but they don't figure out this particular thing. And so that's one of the problems of our culture. We are not running this the way a billion-dollar industry should be run. We try to put a circle into a square. That's what men's college basketball is. It's not a bad circle. It's a great one. It can't be done like the square. It cannot be done like the square. And so somebody might say, I've read where, it's not the one and done thing. Well, the one and done is part of it. It's not the only thing, but we got to pay attention to this side. And, if there was no one and done, if a kid could go out of high school, then he would go from business to business. He wouldn't go from business to college. And everyone says, well, college is, okay, that's another. Well, I'm talking from the kid's perspective. He gets through. Now, we do. I make a lot of money, colleges, universities, from football and but I'm talking basketball now. And then we have this short window, the shortest window for a revenue-producing sport. We have a 10-month window. And so I think part of it is one and done. Where if these kids are being recruited and doing that stuff, let them go. Let them continue to go in that. God bless them. They'll get an extra year in the NBA. And then the NBA has to be responsible for developing them. The NBA is great. I love Adam. I love everyone. They got a good thing going. They got a good thing going. They put them into ours. They get to see if they're good enough. They market them. And then they take the really good ones. I mean, Jason Tatum is more marketable than if he just came out of St. Louis or Malik Monk or whatever. And so, in other words, when you're trying to solve all this, it's not just solving college. But then you have to have people who are savvy enough and be willing to make the circle, figure out what the circle is, whether it's under the NCAA, hopefully it is. If it isn't, they're going to be in a lot of trouble because everything's funded by men's college basketball. So the incentive to solve should be immense. Like, how do we keep our jobs? For nothing else. How do we, and we're at that point. So what happened last week, this is a long answer, isn't it? Yeah. Is this a documentary on 11 at 1 a.m.? At 1 a.m.? But obviously I follow this college basketball. I love it and whatever. But we do have to figure that out. Somebody has to run it. This is a great game. I mean, I've lived my life with this game. I've stayed in college basketball, and I believe in it. And I'm not alone. I mean, there are thousands of coaches and players and whatever who have benefited from it. And that's a slap in the face last week, and it's continued. But it has forced dialogue about this middle amateurism. What can a kid, do you pay them? Do you do this? Do you do that? And whatever. I think those are good discussions. But I'd like to see also one and done put out there. I'd like to see the NBA, be in the discussion and get all parties involved and do what's best for the kid and his family. What's best in this hopefully 20-year journey that a good player has? How can we, the landscape of what it is right now, how can we make it the best? Because the only reason we have jobs is because of them, is because of the player, and so anyway, okay, get off my pulpit.